Hello there folks, today we're taking a look at the game called Shadowscape. It's published by NSKN Games and the designer is Blazej Kubacki. This game, or this theming, is set in the universe of Mistfall, and you're the heroes going to the dungeon, the dungeon crawler, defeating monsters and collecting treasures and shards and trying to win the game with those shards. So there's a lot in the small boxes, so let's take a look at how the game works. So Shadowscape is played over the course of several turns until the final boss comes out, and we have several final bosses. We're going to choose one for the purpose of each game, but let's say it's this one, and then we have several ones, as you can see here. And whoever defeats the final boss will trigger the end of the game, and then you will count points, which are shards. Whoever has the most shards will be the winner of the game, and shards are these symbols right here. They can be found on several cards, on those whisper cards, which basically give you shards because they are kind of objectives. Then we have some shards on the action cards. Then there we have equipment cards, which also have some shards, and so on. So you kind of want to collect shards. That's it. Anyway, so how the game is played. First of all, you have your hero. And let's say I have this Harek or something like that. He's a wizard. He has a special ability, defense, movement, and how many fate cards he can have in his hand. And there's a wound token that you can put, on this card as well. But basically in this game, the heroes, they don't die, but they will be or their actions will be disabled if you get injured. And the fate cards are those cards right here. And there's a cooperative mode and competitive modes. We'll take a look at the competitive modes. There are some other symbols. I'm going to talk about them in a moment. And yeah, you can use those cards as symbols, boosters. You can use those cards in cooperative mode or competitive modes as a special ability and so on. So, first of all, there is a hero phase, or the action phase, how we call it, where you can do two actions. And you have those 4 action cards in front of you. Those 4 action cards have, this regular, it's a dungeon crawl, basically you have some attack, you have healing, you have search. And how you do the actions. Whenever you do the action, let's say I'm going to do the search 2 action. I'm going to do this action, then I'm going to flip that card. For the next turn, when in my next turn, I will have this ability on the card instead of that one. So it's a cool idea. Whenever you take the action, the card is flipped and you get another action on that card for the next turn that you can choose. And you do those 2 actions. You do this action maybe, and then this action, and then your turn is over, you go to the enemy phase. So let's take a look. So, for example, search. What means search? There are those treasure tokens right here. So if you're standing near the treasure token, you can do search. You need those treasure tokens in order to get either whether the action cards or take the equipment cards. So in order to get the equipment cards, you need to spend treasure tokens. 1 treasure token per equipment card, then you can choose any of the equipment cards. When I do search, let's say I'm going to do search 2, I'm going to do this action. Now I'm going to reveal this token. It's 3. So 2 is not enough. But with each action that you can do, there are symbols on those. For example, here you can see the symbol of search. You can boost your actions with your fate cards, and that's where the symbols come in. So here, for example, in order to boost it to 3, although take a look, I have a lot of search symbols here. I'll just spend one of the cards with that symbol, put it in the discard pile, and now I boosted the action up to 3, and now I can take this token. Really easy. I can spend this token now in order to buy equipment, for example. But I might just get hold of it and maybe spend this one and some monster trophies in order to get some of the cool action cards up there. I'm going to talk about them later, although they are kind of the same. So, for example, this is the first. The other thing that you can do, you can move. You spend any of those action cards and you flip it over, and then you move based on your value, and you can always boost your actions. So you can boost your movement as well if you have those symbols in the fate cards. And when you move, you just move. But when you when you move in a room with an enemy, you must stop. It will not fight you. So the thing is that the enemy phase is a separate phase, and the monster will not activate, the monsters will not fight you unless a specific fate card with specific abilities says so, another player's turn, or there's an enemy phase and that particular enemy will be activated then. So, for example, there is also, I have a wizard, so a magician. I have a lot of magic attacks. There is regular attack, magic attack, and basically the difference is that the magic attacks, they can shoot into adjacent rooms, but there are also some exceptions, and regular attacks are usually in the same room. For example, here, let's go with this one right here. The regular attack, deal 2 damage to an enemy in the same room. So whenever you beat an enemy, you have to get past his defense values. So, and the enemies are like that. So they have their attack value, how they attack, and defense value. In order to beat this enemy, I need to put out a power of 4. Let's say I'm in the same room with him, deal 2 damage, and then I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna boost it with 2 sword symbols, and I'll be done with him. And then when I defeat the enemy, I will take it to my collection here as a trophy, and I can use the enemy trophies in order to buy those cards, the special action cards, or whatever. They are kind of a better action cards with shards on them, so you can get the points. And also some of the objective cards give you, for example, there is a here, for example. This, in order to claim this card, it says bring 1 beast trophy to the battle shrine. So there is a particular room here which is a battle shrine, and then you need to have this beast trophy, which is that red monster. You need to defeat the monster, you need to have this trophy, you go to that room, and then you can claim the card. So quite easy, the objectives are quite easy. And this is how you basically deal damage, how you fight monsters. You can do the magic damage. Magic damages have a little bit, for example, it says deal 1 damage to an enemy in the same room, then you may deal 1 damage to a different enemy in the same room. Each attack must be boosted separately. So they kind of are like that. So whenever you, let's say in the enemy phase you get wounds. Whenever you get wounds, you take those tokens and you put them on the cards. If there is at least 1 wound on a card, where there are also, you can see those small symbols here, wound symbols on those cards. Whenever there are wounds on the cards, you cannot use them, they are disabled. There's always 1 card which where you cannot put wounds, and this is the healing card. So, and it says discard 3 wounds from your hero area. On the other side, it's prepare, which is also one of the actions, draw 2 fate cards. So prepare is basically, you want to get more fate cards, you can get more fate cards with prepare. And those are all the different actions that you can do on your turn here. But how the enemy phase works as well. So let's say you did your 2 actions, you flipped your cards, you get some wounds, whatever. I'm going to talk about some extra stuff you can do on your turn. I'm going to show you some whisper cards, and I'm going to show you some special action cards and treasure cards as well. But in the enemy phase, you will flip over the fate card from this deck. You will look at the bottom symbol, and it says what type of enemies will be activated. There are beasts, undead, and I don't remember exactly what they're called. The brigands or something like that. So let's say right now I need to activate red monsters, and those are the red monsters, and they're gonna move first. And some of them, by the way, have a range attack, which means that if they see you 1 room adjacent, then they can attack you from there. They don't have to move. Right now, we also look at the symbols on top right here, and those symbols tell, like those tiny symbols, they tell you how that monster moves. And those room cards have the same symbols. So it moves towards that cross, and then that kind of an elevator symbol. So which means that this monster goes that way and then it goes that way. If the monster would be forced to go backwards with the symbol, he ignores that symbol. He cannot go back. So he always moves to somewhere new. And then, for example, this monster will go to the Z symbol. So he will go here. He has another symbol, so he should kind of go further. But as he entered the room with a hero, he will attack. So everyone who ends up in the room with the hero, or adjacent room if it's an kind of an archer, monster, enemy, they will attack each of those heroes. This is the attack value of that monster. It's 4, which means he attacks me before. Now I look at my defense. My defense right here is 2, so I can prevent 2 wounds, and I can also boost my defense with those cards. Right now I don't have any, but basically if I would have any, I would boost the defense and I would not get wounds. If I get wounds, I put them on the cards, and the cards are disabled until I heal those cards. And that's how the enemy phase works. And you basically go through all of that until one of the whisper cards which comes out is a eliminate the Lord of the Dungeon whisper card. That which means the boss will come in the center, you have to defeat it, you have to basically give him a lot of damage in one turn, but he will fight you back, he's also really aggressive, blah blah blah, and so on. So it's, you know, the Dungeon Crawl story. And let me show you some of the whisper cards as well. So for example, here we have the whisper card, bring 1 beast trophy, as I showed you, search for at least 4. You can search for the treasure tokens even though you don't have treasure tokens in the room. You can search, because for example, if you search in the Brigand Lair, and Brigand Lairs are the ones that where those blue monsters spawn. For example, here there's a Brigand Lair because the blue monsters spawn there. Also, whenever there is no more of those particular type, let's say I defeated all the we defeated all the red monsters, the fate card comes out which activates the red monsters, then all the new red monsters will spawn on their spawn points. Or for example, this one says bring 1 undead hero trophy to the hero shrine, draw cards into an empty hand while preparing a foresight shrine. So these are kind of objectives. Whenever you can claim those cards, and that's what they tell you. On your turn, when you do 2 of those actions, you can also, from your hand, play 1 fate card with special abilities. Basically, you can use one of the special abilities of your fate cards, only 1 per turn, and you can also claim 1 of the cards, but only 1 of the cards. You can claim either boosted action cards, whisper card, objective basically, or a treasure, or what means the equipment cards. So you can claim only 1 of those. So, and about the action cards, these are basically the same, but they have those special symbols. Some of the attacks, especially magic attacks or whatever, the attacks can be boosted with those symbols on the cards as well. They can be really powerful, but this is basically all the same. Draw, prepare, deal damage, magic damage, and they're basically the same, but you know, they aren't more powerful than your cards, and your cards are kind of more powerful, but they are additions. So if you get these cards, it will be your 5th action, so which means that you can take wound on that card, for example, so prevent wounds on the other cards, or it will be kind of an extra action that you can do, because each time you do the action you flip the card, so just extra choice. And then we have also those equipment cards. For example, you can have 2 weapons, you can have clothing and trinket. So once per turn, you gain 1 extra movement points. This card provides an additional space for wounds, which is cool. Whenever you are dealt any damage, you may discard 1 fate card to cancel damage, Cloak of Protection. Amulets, you get the arcane power, which is magical power symbol. This is this chainmail. Your hand size for fate cards is increased by 1. It's a trinket, amulet of wisdom, great shield. Whenever you deal any damage, discard 1 fate card to cancel 1 damage. If the damage was range damage, you can cancel 2 damage instead of 1. Knee dagger, you may not be used by clerics. You may treat search symbols as swords when boosting a regular attack, which is really cool. So you can use search symbols instead of swords to boost the regular attack, and so on. And there are quite a few of them. There is also the expansion, which is called, I'm not going to talk about this here, but this is the expansion called Deeper Dungeon. As you can see, there is a lot going on, but on the other hand, it's quite easy. You do 2 of your attacks, you flip your cards, you flip this fate card to the enemy phase, and then the next player's turn, and next player's turn. And that's basically how you play Shadowscape. So there are things that I like about this game and that I don't like about this game. I'm going to talk about them in a moment, but let's talk about the components first. So this box is small and everything fits really, really tightly if you get the expansion as well. So this is kind of an issue for me, and that's what I want to talk about. This game should have been bigger. This game should have been a standard box. I do understand the intention of having kind of a small box and big game in a small box, tiny epic syndrome. That's great, but let's not overdo that. I mean, there is some kind of you need to test it more. You need to see if people really like that kind of a tiny boxes. Some people like it, but I feel like this game could have benefited much more from having a bigger box, because some of the symbols are small. Everything is kind of a tight and small, and so, especially on those monsters. And then we have also the not the heroes, but the symbols on the cards, on the dungeon cards. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of information, kind of, you know, symbols. And if they are small and tightly put together, then it confuses. So that's that. It should have been a bigger box. The quality of the components is standard. The cards are okay. They're a little bit too glossy, so if you need more lighting and you put some lighting, then it mirrors, and then, you know, it's kind of a small problem, but not too big. It's fine. You'll be fine with that. If we talk about the gameplay, so first of all, what I liked about this one is that I like the streamlined phases of the game. You have the enemy phase, you have your action phase. Basically, on your action phase, you do 2 actions. On the enemy phase, you flip the card, you see what activates, and then you move those monsters and they attack, and it's really simple. You just compare the numbers. It's quite streamlined, and I like that because your turn can be quick. On the other hand, if you don't know your cards and you're thinking too much, for example, our game dragged out way too much, and this game can drag out just because, I know, it's a little bit flaw of the game, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, I still like the streamlined kind of a version of those actions and enemy phase as well. And I also like the idea of those action cards. So you have 4 in front of you and they are double-sided. So if I use this action and this action card, I will flip it next turn. I have the other side of that action card. I have another action. And you kind of need to figure out the puzzle for yourself. So if I do this action right now, or maybe I use this card for a movement, because movement is kind of separate, it's not on the card. You use any card to flip because you need the other side of that card for the next turn. You flip that card for movement and so on. So you kind of have the strategy of going into those actions. I really like this idea. It's really, really cool idea. Having those double-sided action cards, flipping them and so on for the next turns. So, but if we talk about the time limit, not the time limit, the length of the game, then it can be a problem. And I think it's kind of also the flaw of the game. It should have been timed. It should have been maybe some rounds or something like that. Because right now, if you don't, basically, you can end the game only if you claim those whisper cards. You're going through the dungeon and sometimes you defeat the monster, sometimes not. You get some extra weapons, whatever, the equipment cards. But if you don't get the whisper cards, the deck of whisper cards will not run further, which means that you will not get to the final boss. And it's depending on the players. And if players don't claim those objective cards and whisper cards, then they cannot really do anything. I mean, it's just gonna drag on. The game can drag on for a really long period of time. And the problem is that on your turn, you can claim only one of the cards. You can claim either objective cards, this whisper card, you can claim an action card, or you can claim equipment card. And that's the biggest problem I have. Because in the dungeon crawl, you want to have a better equipment, you want to get bigger, kind of an engine building type thing there. And then you do that, but you don't claim the whisper card, because on this turn you already claimed equipment card. And that's the problem I have. I want to claim more cards on my turn. I want to have this freedom. I defeated a lot of monsters, I have a lot of treasure tokens. Go for it, I'm gonna buy everything. And that would make my turn feel better. Right now, okay, if I want to claim this objective, but I really want this equipment. If I don't claim this objective, then I need to wait for another turn, but I really want, let's take equipment, or maybe I should take the objective, otherwise the game will drag on. So this is quite a big flaw of the game. They need to change that rule. They need to think about something else, redevelop this stuff. You should have more, I mean, not more options, but you should have bigger limits of claiming cards. So that's the negative that I have about the game, and some positives that I talked about. So, by the way, the components, the miniatures, they are in a separate package. You can buy them separately. Usually there are small tokens, and that's where, like, really tiny small hero tokens. That's where also, like, it's not necessary to do a small box. I know, I understand the idea, but just don't do that. Not necessary. It's better in a bigger box. If it's a bigger game, make it in a bigger box. Yeah, but overall, there are some of those action cards that you can claim, and also those action cards that I showed you, the ones that you can claim with trophies, they are basically the same, or they are not much better, they're not more powerful than your actions on your table, which means it's kind of unexciting to claim them, because I know the idea. The idea is just you have a fifth card, so you kind of have a little bit more options. But I would have liked those action cards to be special action cards. You can do something extra, you can do something differently from the other players, so you kind of customize yourself. That's what I wanted from this game as well. But those action cards that you can buy, in addition to your original 4 cards, they are not exciting. So overall, this game is fine. It's not a bad game by any means, but it has some flaws. It needs to have a look of developer again to see if they can do something, make the box bigger, make a bigger game, and so on. Anyway, this game will not get a Würfel medal. Yeah, sadly, I'm sorry, but that's how it is. If you can fix those things that I told you about, then we can reconsider the Würfel medal. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to take a look at the Patreon page, and maybe you want to support my channel a little bit, so it will be easier for me to get some extra time to work on the channel. And thanks for everything you've been doing as fans before. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. This channel is sponsored by Osprey Games. Check them out at ospreypublishing.com.